Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
That's right.
Bakari Sellers.
What's going on? I'm glad to be back, man.
Man, happy to see you, bro.
It's
been too long.
To see you, and then you started talking to me about a vasectomy.
Well, you got all them kids.
Well, we had a whole discussion about vasectomies last week because Envy, you got, what, 5 now?
I got 6, bro.
6. I got 4. My wife wants me to get a vasectomy. I'm getting one. I'm not opposed to it. We were talking about dude on Fox News was saying how if you get a vasectomy, you're less than a man.
No, definitely not. No, I got we had twins, and then you real fertile after you have twins. My wife gonna kill me, but whatever. So then she got pregnant again, and she had a miscarriage. And her first pregnancy, I wrote about it in my first book, she almost died. Like she lost 7 units of blood. We went through all of this. She was in ICU, and I was like, we're not doing this no more. And so I went in March. I went, laid up, got snipped, took them Valiums, and they,
You said you were awake the whole time.
You were awake the whole
If
time.
you just said it like that, I would have been like, okay. But then he started telling me, I said, well, what's the procedure? It was like, they cut under your balls.
They cut the backside of your balls, and then it's like you can smell it because they gotta burn it back together.
So they burn your balls.
So then I made my wife come in because I was like, this is what I'm going through. I want you to see what I'm going through and smell it. And it's just like, if you can smell.
I want you to smell my balls.
Yeah. You can smell this is hell coming on here for a children's book. This is how we start. But you can smell like the burning. Like the burning flesh.
Right.
So do they like basically put anesthesia, like local anesthesia?
I think they may. I don't. But you don't feel. You don't feel none of that. I mean, you take one Valium before you like leave a house, and so by the time you get there, you just
high as a kite.
I'm doing it.
And
I'm
then
cutting off my cable.
Then you just sit there and you just watch basketball and you put frozen peas on your balls and.
How long you got to be down for?
Like 2 days. I milked it probably about 4 days.
4 days.
My wife didn't know. I
said, Charlamagne, we should go together.
We're not doing that.
On the show,
I don't. That's weird. But
him giving me a fake ass ain't weird.
That's weird.
Nah. The only thing I was wondering, does it mess up your ejaculation? Does the ejaculation?
Well, no, you gotta. So what you have to do is you have to ejaculate 20 times.
What you mean?
So they have to clear out. They have to clear out your sperm.
What?
So yeah, so after you have the surgery, you have to come 20 times.
You got to beat the meat.
You have to squirt.
Oh wow.
20 times. So for Charlamagne, that's 3 days.
That's 3 days.
No, it's not. I'm 43 years old. You know how long it take me to nut 20 times?
Too
So
much.
you have to do that. You have to do that 20 times.
No sex with your hand. Beat
And
the
then you go back in and they check it and test it and see if your swimmer still swim.
But
Are you
who
telling
are
us
your
the truth?
people?
A lot of you not.
I ain't never heard that one. I'm in that
Google
conversation.
it. Somebody
Nobody
Google
said
it.
anything about nutting 20 times.
You have to,
Bakari.
Yeah,
because you have to clear out. You have to clear out everything.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only way they can tell if it
20
works.
times?
20 times.
I didn't know. I ain't got that in me. I'm telling you right now. 20 nuts and how long it took
I mean,
you?
it just.
How long it took you, man? That's personal, man.
Well, now I feel like y'all should go together.
How long did it take for 20 of them, though?
Probably about 4 or 5 days, 6 days,
4 or 5 days. So that's like 3 a day.
3.5, depending if I'm
You
loaded.
still young, Bakari. How old are you?
37. I was
Yeah.
35 at the time.
I ain't got that in me.
I'm going to sleep.
20.
It's gonna take me 20 days.
Well, these guys here are not your people, but who are your people? Let's talk about that.
The new book.
Oh, I got you one, Yee.
Thank you.
The new book from the New York Times, best-selling author of My Vanishing Country, Who Are Your People, a children's
That's right,
book.
man. Yeah, no, I'm happy to write. I mean, I was tired of, and you probably get this too. Both of y'all get this, but you have your kids and they're reading books and they're seeing movies with like yellow people or blue people or purple people, and I wanted people to be able to see brown people in the imagery. I got, Martin King and Stacey Abrams and Kamala Harris in the clouds, and we have imagery from February 1st, 1960 from the sit-in movement, and just showing, because when in the
Why
South.
you made Stacey and Kamala ancestors already, man?
Well, I mean, I just want.
How you go from Martin to Stacey and Kamala?
Man, I wanted people to be able to see them and dream that they could be them too.
Got you.
And so, it's a good book. It's a beautiful book, and I hope that people see themselves in it. So that's why. And I've always wanted to write children's book. And down south, the first question people ask you is, "Who are your people?"
Who are your people?
I mean, that's how they know what type of stock
right.
you come from, who your mama, who your daddy.
That's right.
And so that's just where we are. So hopefully it does well. It should do well. It's out today.
Today.
That is a great question, though. Who are your people? And, it does really affect you so much. Like, I feel like the conversation people had around Black Panther, right, for kids in particular was important. Just because you get to see like we are smart, intelligent, technology.
It's like what's the name of that movie? Encanto. Y'all know that new Encanto, the new Disney movie. Encant.
I ain't watched it yet.
You only watch? No, it's dope, but it has that imagery of young black and brown boys and girls on the screen, and so when you have curly hair, when you have brown skin, you see yourself in that imagery. And like Black Panther, it's so important to have these conversations in this level of representation. So,
I'm bugging. I did see that with the person, the little character with the curly hair.
Yes, man. It's like the number one movie in the world.
My kids watched that over the holidays.
I was like, it's the number one movie in the world. Like, what are y'all watching it now?
Yes.
But you're right. Even with imagery, because I was saying this the other day. I was in Memphis, and I was at this at Choices. That's where they do a lot of stuff for women's reproductive care.
Oh, that's what's up.
And a lot of times when you see things on the wall at the doctor, you don't see brown people. Like, you don't see that. It's just the standard has always been you see white people doing things, and you see those images of this is how you do, whatever type of procedure you're doing. And so it is so different when you can see it reflected on you. It feels like, okay, there's a connection here.
And at the end of the book, we talk about like, how are you going to change the world? And I have a picture of my so the imagery is based off my little girl, Sadie in Stokely. Mm-hmm. And at the back of the book, you have, Sadie is president of the United States, mm-hmm. and Stokely is an astronaut. Right. And we just try to throw a lot of those narratives on their head. That's supposed to be me, kind of handsome. Like I put myself on the front of the book. But shout out to Reggie Brown, who was the illustrator, because we just wanted. Look, I wanted black folk to be able to be proud of something, and when white folk read it, white kids read it, they'll be able to have a sense of, compassion, understanding, and empathy. But right now, we just got to keep it on the shelves because there's going to be a push to, like with critical race theory
mm-hmm.
and everything else, there's going to be a push to take all this stuff off the shelves.
Why do you think there's such an active movement to remove black history? Most importantly, the sins of this country.
I think people are scared. I think that whenever you teach people their history, whenever you teach them to struggle, whenever you teach them their strength, their triumphs, then people get scared of what you can become. Mm-hmm. You know how much stronger you'll be if you know from where you come? If you know the legacy and history of kings and queens, if you know the history of the true history of somebody like Sidney Poitier, who was not just an actor, but he was a race man. I had a picture up the other day on my Twitter where Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte were a lot like Jay-Z and Beyonce were today, and that when people went and protested and got arrested, Sidney and Harry were the people who bailed them out of jail. And so my dad, Willie Ricks, John Lewis, and others were protesting the South African embassy up here in New York. Cleveland Sellers. Yeah, OG. What's up? Daddy listening to the Breakfast Club this morning. Mm-hmm. And, they had no money to get out of jail, their parents. So Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte came to get them. But it was this community. And the more we know about our history, the better off we'll be.
I saw the other day people were mad at Ari Lennox, right? And I don't know, it was crazy to me because she went to Ghana.
Oh, that was insane, though. Like, she went to Ghana, posted about her trip.
Right, I thought that was...
People were mad at her, yeah.
The first time we went to Johannesburg, my friend cried, like, as soon as we landed on the plane, because I feel like we are taught so many negative things and negative images, and then you get someplace, and you're like, it's nothing like this, and you do feel that strong connection. And so I was like, that's great. She's having an amazing time. She's emotional about it. No,
I think, and we also, this is a part of the culture we live in today where we don't give people grace.
Right.
Like, allow people the grace to learn and live and grow and mess up. But she was just living and learning. And I don't, this is the 200th year, and this is the bicentennial of the creation of Liberia. Mm-hmm. Like, most people don't know that. It was founded by freed slaves, right? We're talking about 200 years, our history. Mm-hmm. And, I expect people would get emotional. That's where we're from. So shout out to Ari for at least attempting to learn, going and sharing that experience. And, screw all those people who, and sometimes you just got to stand in your own truth, too. You can't just bow down to the will of the masses, which y'all do well.
I was going to ask.
I don't think we take into consideration how miserable people are. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these people are just projecting their pain.
Well, but social media allows people to project their misery on you.
That's right.
And people be trying too hard to be funny. Like, sometimes being mean is funny to people.
Well, why do you want somebody else's misery to be the joke? That's just
how people are.
What were you about to say? They cut you off four times.
No, but they were talking about that, so we let them live. Kamala Harris, I see that you have Kamala Harris in the sky.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about her report card right now? What she's been doing for the country?
No, I think that Kamala gets a solid B- right now.
Why B-?
Because I think there's so much more that she could do. I think that one of the tragedies of the first year, and it's just been a year, has been that she's been a prisoner of Washington, D.C. And she's been a prisoner of the press, and she's not out in these streets. I want Kamala in Jackson, Mississippi, and Birmingham. I want her in Baton Rouge and Charleston. I want her in these places actually talking to real people. And a lot of times when you're in Washington, D.C., when you get elected, when you get to those offices, you lose touch of who you are. And I think she's a really dope person. I think she's a great talent. But I think the more you get into Washington, the more that cancer grows on you, and she got to be willing to shake that. And I think that...
Are you saying you can lose your soul in D.C.?
You can lose yourself. I don't know if you lose your soul, but you can definitely lose yourself in D.C. And she has to just go out and regain her swag a little bit. And I think that a lot of that has to do with COVID, but a lot of it has to also do with the people around her letting her go and do well. I think they all get a B- or so.
You think Joe Biden as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, there's so much.
He promised us a lot when he was on that campaign trail.
And you haven't gotten the shit that he promised you, right?
Nothing.
And so that's a lot of the. So for me, it's like voting rights, criminal justice reform, all of these things.
George Floyd Policing Act.
I mean, but look, we understand, and you also you can't talk about that without saying what you've given us. We understand the COVID relief package. We understand transportation, but that don't mean that. I sent Charlamagne a text the other day. Man, the price of whiting, flounder at the Piggly Wiggly has all gone up.
Yeah, we just talked about that earlier.
Definitely went up a few dollars.
Definitely
Definitely went up a few
We
dollars.
talked about that in the juice bar. The prices of fruit and vegetables are shooting up.
And not just that, but also the supplies.
We talking
the
about
cups,
good fried
the
white, and
lids.
here y'all go talking
Talking
about
about
healthy
a juice
stuff.
bar. I was like,
Yeah.
juice bar.
We
talking about Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly.
But then it's hard because-
Liver pudding has gone up, Envy.
You gotta do your fruit too. You gotta be.
But you know, everybody is trying to be healthier, right?
No doubt.
Right now,
First,
and, and then you have to transfer those.
I was gonna say fuck your fruit.
that
No.
information to-
First of all, can we have a conversation about eating healthy though, and why is it so expensive? Because
That's the thing.
Well-
like you can go right now and get like a pound of sugar and 10 packs for $1 of Kool-Aid, right? And you can get bologna, bread, all of this stuff, and that is cheap, right? That's affordable.
Compared to everything else.
But
yes.
you go to somebody talking about you go to Whole Foods. I didn't have a Whole Foods within 100
Well,
miles.
Whole Foods is different though, because I do feel because that's organic and they do make you pay a lot more for things that are organic. But I will say you can buy fruits and vegetables and have those things in your home. If you want to make smoothies, you can make a whole week's worth of smoothies going to the supermarket.
You know what'd be dope if you did, and I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way because I think it actually would be very valuable if you or somebody else would just teach people how to eat healthy on their means. Because that's the most difficult thing to do. Because you walk into these stores and you have all these processed foods and everything else, and we like, man, I don't even know how am I supposed to eat healthy?
Right.
How am I supposed to eat healthy with a budget of $15?
Right.
We did growing up though, but that's
Yeah, you
because
buy a
our
big
parents
bag
and
of
grandparents
apples.
grew a lot of stuff.
But we ate full meals.
Yeah.
Like we ain't snack. My daddy cooked lunch. Like you would go out the house,
That's
he
real.
would come back in and he cooked lunch. Then you had to go back outside. And then when the light
That's
came
right.
on, you come back in and he
Dinner.
cooked dinner. So we ate like full meals. We went around there snacking. But I mean, I think it's so difficult. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The price and the feeling in people's pockets. This White House is not understanding how bad people are hurting.
Yeah.
And that's translating into people robbing you.
That's right.
And that's translating into people coming. And I was talking to Wax, and Wax was poetic. And he said that,
Wait.
He is. He always
Why
is.
did you
by the
say
way.
I'm talking about people robbing you, and then you said I was talking to Wax?
He's getting to his point.
Okay.
I was getting there.
Ooh.
And Wax said, right now, you don't even have to be rich for somebody to rob you.
That's right.
You just have to have more than they have.
That's right.
And I was like, Langston, motherfucker,
That's
you.
right.
Hey, Wax.
Yeah, but that's
That's
so
the
true.
truth.
That's right.
People are hungry, and it manifests itself in other ways. And I'm not sure this White House understands that pain. And by keep telling people what they can't do, like we can't pass voting rights because of Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema, or we can't pass police reform because of such and such, then it just why are we doing this? Why are we voting? And they're going to realize that in 2022. It's going to be a harsh reality.
You think it's hard to so why won't Republicans, I get it, right? They always stick to their side, and no matter what, even if it's the right thing to do, chances are they're not going to vote for some of these bills to pass. But I was wondering about the filibuster, because everybody's talking about get rid of the filibuster, get rid of it, we need to do away with it. But then the Democrats will use it when the Republicans are the ones. So what do you think about the filibuster?
The filibuster is a relic of a racist past. And the filibuster was used so that we wouldn't have the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, all of these other things. And for Joe Manchin, John Tester, Mark Warner is okay with it now, Kirsten Sinema to be using this to prevent us from getting voting rights it is what it sounds like.
So how do you get rid of it?
No, you don't. And in fact, I'm not even asking them to get rid of it. I'm just asking them to narrow it so that we can pass voting rights. I'm literally asking you to do one thing. And why am I asking you to do that one thing? When Mitch McConnell was leader of the Senate, He got rid of it, and he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices just to narrow it down for that. So why can't we use it to ensure we have access to the ballot box? Because as Charlamagne said poetically, that if we don't pass voting rights, then Democrats will be doomed for the decade to come.
You know, you were one of the first people in mainstream media who called out Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. You even gave out their numbers and told folks to call their offices.
Yeah, they were mad at me about that.
Why did you do that initially?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was hot. I was 38 hot, as we say down south, because I had just come out of with the family of Andrew Brown.
Andrew Brown, yeah.
And we were in Elizabeth City. He'd been gunned down. I don't know if you all remember Andrew, but it's been so many. But he was a young man when the police came to serve his warrant. He drove away, and the police shot him in the back of the head. The city of Elizabeth City was on fire. And it was the #1 news story in the world for about 10 days. So every time me, Ben, and Harry Daniels and Chantel and Chance would come out and do a press conference, they would break in national news. So you don't have that opportunity often where we're talking about 12:30, they're breaking into every show, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, everything. And I'm like, we need to pass, I'm tired of people sitting on their hands. We need to pass criminal justice reform. I said, call these people. And we broke the switchboard because that's the only way things get done. When you put pressure on folks, and I'm not actually sure how you pressure Joe Manchin. I mean, people want Kamala and Joe Biden to do more, and I get that. But Joe Manchin is the problem. Joe Manchin, I think you asked a good question. I didn't vote for Joe Manchin to be president of the United States, but Joe Manchin is literally running the country right now.
But that's one of those situations where it's like, let me talk to your boss, right? Because let me go even more gutter with it.
Don't have us both, man. I don't want to be behind you in line and getting into VP's office.
Let me get more gutter with it. Pimps and hoes.
Oh, boy.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris need to control their hoes.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Well, let's talk about who are your people.
I'm just saying. Okay, let me ask another. Why are Democrats so afraid to call out other Democrats?
That's
the
problem. I think that one of the things you notice, and I think all of y'all will notice this, when Donald Trump was president of the United States, Republicans fell in line. There was nobody else going off the reservation to do anything. And we have that problem now. I mean, but like, why does Joe Manchin want to be on the other side? Like, why does Joe Manchin not want to be on the side of democracy? I mean, people literally fought, and I write about it in this book. People fought and died for voting rights, and he wants to be on the side against it.
So he represents West Virginia, right?
Correct.
Do the people in West Virginia, are they like, this is our guy that represents us?
Well, he's the only Democrat who can represent West Virginia. I mean, if he loses or whenever he goes his own way, there won't be another Democrat that represents West Virginia. West Virginia is but it's also very poor.
Very poor.
And so I think that we have to go in and we have to talk to these, because I do believe now, I write about this in My Vanishing Country, my first book, that in Denmark we used to have this couple who would ride their tractor to the grocery store, white couple. And I mean, you know, in the South people ride tractors and everything else to wherever they were going. And they were comfortable enough even in their poverty because they weren't black. So they always felt better than you, right? And so there is some level of race. However, I do think that if you have a message of economic equity, et cetera, then poor white folk will even listen to you. There's a certain place y'all can meet in the middle.
On Face the Nation, they asked Vice President Kamala Harris about a question, about something that you presented. You said her portfolio of policy issues is trash. What did you mean by that? And did she get upset?
I listened to too much Breakfast Club.
Oh, boy.
I should have been better with my words. I was telling the truth though. Her portfolio leaves a lot to be desired in the fact that they gave her voting rights at the time when Joe Biden wasn't coming out against the filibuster. We know he's out against the filibuster now. And they gave her immigration, which is the hardest thing to fix. And they just gave her these topics and then didn't give her any help or any. And so I did think it was trash. But was she mad? She didn't express that to me directly, but people around her definitely did. But I told him I didn't feel like I was being dishonest. I wasn't going to back away from it. And I support her. I mean, I rock with her. I think she's a talent. I want her to do extremely well. I mean, I see a lot of. She is the first African-American, first woman to be vice president of the United States. The vice presidency is meant to be an invisible job. So she's handicapped by the fact that there are a lot of things that we want her to do she can't do. She can't go beyond the messaging of Joe Biden. And so because of that difficulty, she's supposed to be invisible. And then they cover her in a way, I mean, they've never seen, how do you want the media to cover a black woman vice president? Oh, they should cover her like there is no other light. And so they're treating her with this. I mean, Angela gets it more so than anything. I mean, having this double, being a black woman in radio, having the #1 show in the country, there is a double standard for the way that they treat you.
Right.
I wish you would say that, though.
I do think a lot of sexism plays a role, even how they assess her and everything, her responses to things. A lot of it, I feel like, I'm like, all right, she's a black woman, so. And
I think she has to, I mean, and what Charlamagne is saying, and this is what would probably get me in trouble. I think that, and this is what I wanted Barack Obama to do too, embrace your blackness more. There is a theory in politics that, I don't have to say I'm black because you can see I'm black. And no, people want to hear about your experience. They want to hear you talk about those trials and tribulations. And there's certain, like Kamala, you would want the Madam Vice President, to say, you wouldn't treat me this way if I wasn't a black woman, and go from there. But she's holding up, herself, and she's playing above that, which is cool, I guess.
Now, this is a midterm year, and Democrats are already running the same old. Got to go out there and vote like democracy depends
First
on
of
it
all,
because it does.
You need to stop mocking Michelle Obama. That's what you're going. That's what. All right, you hear that? When Barack Obama calls up here and says, "Why were y'all mocking his wife?" Y'all gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" That is what it is.
Because I got one simple question for all of them. When is somebody going to tell Congress to govern like democracy depends on it?
But what you want Michelle Obama to say to Joe Manchin?
Same thing she's telling to the voters, because you know how this is going to end. This is going to end with our OG, Mr. Clyburn, waving his finger saying, y'all niggas should have voted. He ain't going to say niggas, but y'all should have voted.
He might.
And it's like, why do they always put it on the voters instead of putting it on the elected officials to do their job? So we'll go out there and vote for them.
What you want me to go out there and tell these? I mean, when they going to send me to barbershops, they going to send me to cities, they going to send me all across, radio stations all across the country, getting black folk to vote. And my question is, what you want me to tell them?
That's it. How can you in good conscience? Seriously.
But again, it's not just voting though, right? Because after you vote, then what?
Well, they ain't doing that. I mean,
we're in that now.
With all due respect to my friends, like Jamal Bryan and them, I'm not going hungry like Mark Thompson and them. Like, I'm not doing no hunger strike. I mean, I need another protest tactic because that's not my ministry.
Please eat. Them white people do not care if y'all starve.
Please eat, brothers.
Please eat, brothers.
Yeah, but so I mean, I need to know what now. But I mean, a lot of our, you got Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright down in Georgia doing the work. A lot of people are trying to hold this administration accountable. A lot of people are trying to hold William Barber, for example.
Love Reverend Barber. Love Latasha too. Latasha, when she was here last time, said she's going to focus on being hyper local, but she cannot, in good conscience, tell people to go out there and vote if things don't get passed.
Well, I want people to focus local too. I mean, from DAs to city council, et cetera, where the real change is made. From Newark to New Jersey, from New York to New Jersey, all the way through this area. I mean, I think that the real change is made on a local level, because right now you're not getting anything out of Washington, D.C.
Damn.
That ain't promising.
So what is it like, in politics, is it like you have to barter with Joe Manchin to figure out how, this is what's important to him, so we'll make this promise so that he can give us this? Like, how do you handle that?
You have to compromise. You compromise everything but your values. And so the problem with Joe Manchin is nobody knows what he wants. It's hard to make a deal with somebody when they sit on the other side and you're like, all right, I want to make this deal with you. I'll give this, this, and this so we can have this, but you don't know what. They're like, no, that's not enough. And you're like, what do you want? And you're like, I don't know. I'll get back to you. Like, how do you want to compromise with somebody who doesn't know or won't tell you what they want? And so that's the fundamental problem. I mean, you're not negotiating with people in good faith, and we're negotiating over our fundamental rights.
I feel like you're done with politics, Bakari. I feel like you don't want to get back in it.
I'm not done with it. I'm done with some of the people in it.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to drive nice cars like Envy.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
You can drive.
You can't do that if you're a politician.
You drive a nice car.
And I think people sometimes forget.
And I drive a 2010 Nissan Titan, man.
That's good. That's being frugal.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget, and I say this all the time, they forget who your daddy is. They forget what your bloodline is.
No, we'll be around though. I mean, but I got twins now. Raising kids changes your life. I mean, that's a totally different ball game. Doing some investing and stuff. I'm just trying to grow, man.
How
trying
did
to get
kids
this
feel
money
about seeing themselves represented?
Politics, I'm going to the money now.
I mean, money does, because there's so many. I mean, I sent some kids to Oxford from South Carolina State. There's so much you can do with money. I can't lie to you. So
I mean, that's
you
the
know,
whole thing is generation wealth. Make sure my kids are good. Making sure they're set up for the future, so they don't have
sure.
to deal with a lot of the BS that we had to deal with.
Now, how did your kids feel about seeing themselves represented in a book?
they cool with it, but it's not their favorite book. To be honest, their favorite book is the numbers book. Man, they love the numbers book, and they got a letters book. They're real big on. Like I'm like, you want me to? You want Daddy to read your book to you tonight?
You talking about Numberjack?
It's a book where they just they see like it's like one banana and two monkeys. I don't know.
But they like that more.
They like that more, and then they like the letters because the letters associated with the words, and then they want to look at themselves, and they'll point themselves out in the book. Mm-hmm. They'll get to page 3, and then they want to do something else.
Now, Bakari, did you pay your kids for this book for using their images and stuff like that?
I paid them attention. My wife was like, "Man, we need to come up with shirts, little hats, and stuff." I was like, "Nah," but we are doing so. My next goal with that book is to do some animation and see if we can do a little short hair love film, and then see if we can bring it to screens around the world. See if we can. I mean, I want young black and brown kids to be able to see themselves on TV.
No, I think we need that more because Charlamagne has 4 daughters. I have 4 daughters, and when the kids go to school, they have to come to it with a book every week, and I'm tired of seeing books that don't look like us. You know what I mean? And I try to buy as many.
It's a bunch
as
of them though.
Yeah, and I try to buy as many as possible, but every week I'm like, nah.
That bookstore in Newark.
Between the two of y'all, got 8 daughters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh God, it's funny, ain't he?
Man.
Y'all deserve it. Y'all deserve all.
I love it.
Every
You know
bit
what's
of
so
that.
crazy? I used to always think I wanted a boy, but I think I wanted a boy just because I felt like society said a man has to have a boy. But the reality is I love being around women. So it's like God has given me what I need. When I'm 60-something years old, I'm going to be surrounded by
But
all these women.
boys are, there's nothing like my son jumping on my head or pulling my leg or just fighting me for no reason and smiling. I mean, the boys
My
are.
daughters do that.
Oh, my daughters do
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna say I definitely did that growing up.
My daughter's the ones that jump on me more.
I probably was a wilder
Your
one.
son is a football player,
He
right?
plays football, yeah. He
That's
plays
dope.
Football. He plays
Beating
football.
Envy's ass.
No, he's not. Definitely
Beating his
not.
Envy's scared to raise
But I got a
his voice.
16. I got a
He's
16.
scared.
Hey, what do you do about your daughter's
Mm-hmm.
boyfriends? I got a 16-year-old and my stepdaughter and my bonus daughter. I love her with all my heart. She got a boyfriend, Grant, about 6'2.5", play wide receiver. I can't. I mean, we can't wrestle in the front yard.
You illegal firearm on him.
Yeah, you got one illegal firearm. I got a 20-year-old, but you got to remember my son is 18 and like they said he plays football, so he's diesel, like he's big.
He play receiver though,
He
right?
plays receiver. He's diesel. He can run, even though he don't know how to use his strength with me yet.
It's happening.
If it does, I got a baseball bat by the side of my bed. But I mean, he got.
And them dudes coming in trying to date your daughters and stuff. I mean, you just.
Now we have great conversations. My daughters, you got to trust. It's how you raise your kids.
You gotta
raise
trust
my
them,
daughter
right?
Great. My daughter's 20. She goes to NYU. She has her own apartment, and it's how we talk. But I do have a key to the apartment just in case. You
got a key?
Goddamn right. I pay it.
You
And
should
you
have
know-
a key in case there's an emergency.
Okay, but you can't just. Your daughter's 20. You can't just pop up.
I pop up all the time. And
What?
it's-
No, that's kind of rude.
I don't pop up and just open up the door, but I pop up and like, babe, I'm downstairs all the time. But and this app right here.
She could be 30.
Well, you know what?
And they gonna
We
be
don't-
like your daddy downstairs.
Our job is also not that far from where her school is, too.
Absolutely.
So.
And
Oh,
then
you got
see
that? I know what you're talking about.
This Life Fitness app.
I got
right here,
that.
right?
I got that.
This app is the best thing ever.
You
can
know
see
everybody
where-
at-
everywhere.
That's right.
If you a cheater, this app ain't for you. But if you a good
get
brother
someone else your phone.
and you a faithful person, this app is great because you see where everybody's
This
at.
the best
Everybody.
ad. This the best ad on the planet.
I mean, I wish I owned
No, I
it.
got that.
But I can see where my daughter is on real time. I can see when she's in the car, how fast she's going. If she's wherever she went to Boston this weekend, I can see where she went, where she stayed, all that. And my daughter was the one that put me onto this app. Dad, I want to put you on the app so if anything ever happens to me, you can find me.
There you go. She's a
that's
good
dope.
girl. Now, Bakari, as a dad, right, with everything going on with COVID and the restrictions about should the kids go to school, should they not go to school, should they be vaccinated, what are your thoughts?
Man,
as a parent?
my kids need to go to school. I need them up out the house. I mean, I need mayors and like school districts, etc., to make sure that these schools got tests so they can test their teachers, test the students.
Absolutely.
I need people to get vaccinated if you're over 5 years old. I mean, kids need to go to school. I mean, we're going to see in a decade how much the kids of this generation lost
It's affecting them
Word
man.
up.
by not being in school.
Absolutely. It's a lot.
I mean,
Last year was horrible, and having to, and I know you and both of us, all three of us would know, having to be there with them, trying to teach them multiplication the way that they learn.
Now, Yee,
Different from
can
us?
you imagine Envy and Charlamagne teaching anybody anything all
No.
day, every day? I mean,
He said that. I wasn't doing that.
You knew we wasn't doing it?
No.
Oh, I was.
I was just in the house for moral support.
No, but I had 3 kids in school. I got one in this class, one in this class. My wife did one. I had to do one.
My daughter she was upstairs and downstairs. I mean, it got to the point I was like, you got to do school downstairs, right? In the kitchen. So we can see you. Make sure you're going. And then that lasted about 2 weeks. Then she upstairs laying across the bed, half sleep in class, doing
hard.
whatever. I mean, so they need to go to school.
Absolutely.
But also be careful. My wife she had COVID not long ago, and that Omarion is real.
Yeah.
I mean, it knocked her completely down.
But how did she know that's what she had? Did she know it was?
Because it's more like a bronchitis.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one was more like a pneumonia. It affected your lungs. This was like a bronchitis. It kind of set in your chest. I'm not
We
a
were talking
doctor,
about
so that
this
might be
earlier.
That's true. We had it. My whole house had it. Everybody. Me, the wife, daughters, everybody had it.
So, yeah, man, go out and people are talking about I don't want to take the vaccine, but they'll eat Taco Bell chicken wings. Man, go get the vaccine.
But it is confusing, though. I mean, when you got the CDC director out here hiring PR, talk about she got to work on her messaging because they know they've confused the American people.
They have.
It is very confusing. And now they got a vaccine coming out just for Omicron in March.
Well, because you have different iterations. In Cyprus, they just found the Omicron and Delta.
Deltacron.
Deltacron. They got Florina.
Too much, man.
I mean, are we ever going to get out the pandemic, Envy?
No.
We just got to have to learn to live with it.
Yep.
I mean, even when we listened to the guy from Pfizer this morning, he's like, we're realizing 2 boosters is not effective. No, 2 shots is not effective. 2 shots and a booster is not effective.
He said 2 shots and a booster is kind of
effective.
It's limited.
Then you might need a
but
fourth
in March, we got the one for you. It's
Then
like
why did I just take all those shots?
exactly.
it's
Come
not gonna
on,
help me.
man.
Man, give me all the shots, man. Look, I'm going to take them all.
Really?
Man, well, yeah.
What about your kids?
Yeah. My daughter's a little different because she had a liver transplant, so we got to actually have to see what works and what doesn't. So, but line my boy up. My son gonna take him too. I mean, I trust science. I mean, science, but people think science is static, and like people think because what you say today about something scientific, it should not change. That's not the way science works. The more that they study it, the more it evolves, the more it changes, and I think that's actually healthy. And so I'm going to listen to Fauci and the CDC, and I'm going to listen to all of those people, and I'm not going to listen to the people on Facebook.
But is it studied enough?
But
That's my
now,
only fear.
real quick.
Well, mRNA has been studied for years. It's not new, and so it's been studied for years. And I just think that, yes, there are adverse reactions to vaccines, no doubt. However, what we do know as a fact is you're more likely to die if you catch one of these viruses and you're not vaccinated.
Well, some of the stuff that they've been saying on social media is starting to come true.
On social media?
The head of CDC, the CDC director, Dr. Warnowski, she said that 75% of all COVID deaths were because people had multiple diseases. She said that on Good Morning America.
But they might not have died if they didn't get COVID, right?
Correct.
What do you mean?
Like if you have an underlying condition, you would still be alive, except the COVID came and took you out. Mixed
we don't know, but that's what they always said. They said, did you die of COVID or did you die because you had underlying conditions?
Comorbidity.
Yeah, comorbidity. That's what she said. She said people.
But she was talking about unvaccinated people, though.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I mean,
no, I don't think she made a distinction. She just said 75% of all people who died of COVID died because of the word you just said.
Comorbidities.
Comorbidity. Yeah.
But the context matters because people who are unvaccinated with comorbidities, yeah, you're more likely to die. I mean, there is.
That's why they were the first ones to be able to get vaccinated.
Correct.
If you have underlying conditions.
Y'all got to stop trying to make sense of these people who have already admitted that they don't make no sense.
Listen.
They've already admitted that
but
they
then who do you
confuse
listen
people.
to?
But the problem is that people think that vaccines are for them. That's where people screwed this whole thing up. You getting a vaccine ain't for you.
Who's it for?
The people who can't.
Yeah.
You were protect. This is when
For
you
the
have
people
to.
who can't? What do you mean?
So you getting a vaccine is for my daughter, who is immunocompromised.
But why? Because even if he has a vaccine, he could catch it.
No, but he can catch it. He could catch it
And still pass it.
but he's less likely to.
That's what they said before. But it seems like
that's been disputed too.
No, it's not.
That's what they killed. No, that's what they
not
killed Rachel Maddow for. What are y'all talking about? And the head of the CDC said herself.
But it's less likely. You are less likely to transmit.
That's not true.
You're less likely to get it.
They've
and
already
less
admitted
likely
that's
to
not.
transmit
They've
it.
admitted
Less
that's not
likely
true.
to be
The head of the CDC.
That's not what she. No, she did.
I
thought you
talked
were
about it
less
this
likely
morning.
to
I played it
die.
this morning.
Play it again.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up
I
for
thought you
you.
were less likely to die
And
when you got
transmit.
the vaccine.
And get
but
it.
transmit seems like everybody who has the vaccine that I know has it.
But
or
there's
had it.
mutations.
Are they living?
They are living.
So
But they can still pass it to your daughter.
But the other thing is, and let's use a different example. You're not vaccinated.
I'm
right?
vaccinated.
Well, I'm just saying I'm not. The person X is not vaccinated. They get sick as hell. They go to the hospital. They take up ICU beds, etc. That means when you have a heart attack, that means when you need a surgery, etc. That bed is now filled with somebody who didn't want to go get a vaccine.
Correct. But now this is my thing, right? Since we said it hasn't been studied, right? I got it. My older kids got it. My younger kids haven't got it yet, right? The reason being is I don't know how it affects.
That came from the CDC.
It says can spread. I get that, but I'm also saying
What do you mean?
I said it limits. That's not you just can't.
I don't know what can spread.
You can spread it, but I'm also saying the vaccine actually
lessens the chance
that you can transmit.
Like I said, with kids though, like it hasn't been tested enough with young kids to make sure it doesn't affect their brain, affect growing parts, affect any of that. For kids, young kids.
Well, that's why I don't think. You can't get it under 5.
But 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are.
They tested the efficacy of it. If my kids were 5, they would get it. I wouldn't have any hesitation about it.
What about healthcare
because
workers?
I do want you to know that these ICUs right now are filling up with children.
Yeah.
What about healthcare workers who don't want to get vaccinated?
Your man got caught in the big lie. You saw the CDC director shot that down yesterday, Judge Sotomayor. He said that there was 100,000 kids with COVID on respirators in hospitals.
I'm
just saying. He did say that.
He said in the hospital on
Yes.
respirators.
Oh my God! Were y'all
kids.
not listening to the radio this morning? I played the clip in the
I thought he just said sick. I didn't hear him say.
He said
100,000
kids were in the
She cleared it up,
hospital.
though. She
He said they were
cleared it
on
up.
respirators, and the CDC director said no, that's not true. It's like
she cleared it
3,500
up.
3,500 what now?
kids
On
not
respirators.
100,000.
On respirators?
He said it was 100,000 kids sick in the hospital. And he said, I guess he said somewhere on ventilators. And she said, no, it's not 100,000. It's like 3,500. That was the head of the CDC correcting Judge Sotomayor. So who do you believe when you got Supreme Court justice?
I was like, who is he talking about? You mean Sotomayor?
Sotomayor.
I didn't know. I was like,
You know where I'm from.
I was like, what is he? Who is he talking
But
about?
listen, my point is when you got somebody on the Supreme Court saying that, and then the CDC director correcting them, it's a big difference between 100,000 and 3,500.
She said we
Bakari.
have over 100,000 children, which we've never had before, in serious condition, and many on ventilators.
Yes.
She didn't say 100,000 kids on ventilators.
I missed this part of the news.
Regardless of if she said on ventilators, it's still 100,000 kids that she said was in the hospital sick, and some are on ventilators.
I do think.
And the CDC, the Fox News pressed her and was like, but it's not 100,000, it's 3,500. And she was like, yes, it's 3,500.
Oh, because
Come on, Bakari.
They said in all 82,000.
I didn't see it. I mean,
That was yesterday. It was yesterday. It was 13 hours ago. So, yeah.
It's not.
I'm just saying. And by the way, I'm vaccinated. I'm just saying you have to understand why people are confused.
I don't disagree. People are confused. I think the messaging around vaccines and COVID has been terrible. But I also think that we kind of dropped into a pandemic, and people are trying to. I mean, it's something you haven't seen before. People are trying to figure out the best way to get out of it.
And things are changing daily.
Things are changing daily. The variant is changing. Mm-hmm. I just interviewed on my podcast Dr. Italo Brown out of Stanford, young cat, great doctor, and we talked about it. I mean, science is evolving, but I do know one thing: I'm getting vaccinated, encouraging everybody around me to get vaccinated because I just want to live.
Would you take the Johnson & Johnson vaccination?
I didn't. I mean,
would you if that was an offer? They said, would you? That was the only one. Would you take that?
Yeah, I mean, if that was the only one. I mean, nah,
I wouldn't because they said they were giving people blood clots. So
but I mixed
I
mixed and matched mine. I took I went in there like it was a soup and salad. I went in there. I got Pfizer, and then my booster was the Moderna.
So I agree, science is evolving, but it is very confusing when the CDC director says I have to hire somebody to help me with my messaging.
Well, either that or she's gonna be fired. I mean, those are just a couple of the. The messaging. I mean, the messaging around all of this is pretty terrible.
Can we get back to why he's here?
Oh.
The book, ladies and gentlemen.
Who are your people?
Man, we started off at vasectomies, went to the book.
That's why this is a great conversation.
Make sure you pick it up. I'm going to read it to the kids tonight.
Please do.
I'm definitely taking this home to the kids.
I appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Where do you get the book? Everywhere you buy books?
Everywhere books are sold. Please shout out to Uncle Bobby's, Mark Lamont Hill, and Mahogany Books. Shout out to all of those spots. Books of Wonder and Barnes & Noble here in the big city will have some autographed copies. And hopefully next week it's a #1 seller, or at least on the list again.
You know what's so crazy? your first book came out during the pandemic, My Vanishing Country.
I thought I was gonna be able to take a real book tour, man. I'm around here taking. This is the only show I'm doing in person. Everything else I'm doing with no pants on.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Sitting in front of my laptop.
You still made the New York Times bestsellers list.
We did,
even
man.
with all the virtual stuff.
We did. We sold over 100,000 of My Vanishing Country, and
Well,
this right.
congrats on that.
Well, congrats on that.
Who are your people out right now?
Thank you, Thank you, guys. Thank you, Yee.
Well, it's
No
the
problem.
Breakfast Club. It's Bakari Sellis.